Hi, my name is Sruti. I'm an author and spiritual teacher who discusses my experience of spiritual awakening in times of chronic pain. Today, I want to talk about how women's role in society, which has been undervalued, is directly related to how we deal with pain in our lives. The way we deal with pain is through vulnerability, flexibility, humility, and compassion. In my personal experience, I see that pain is an eraser that takes away the false layers of who we are, including the mind, the body, the feelings, back to the source of consciousness, to you who can even see your own breathing and your own eyesight. This way of relating to pain, rather than externalizing it outwards, to place blame upon others and make them into objects of that blame, thereby objectifying them, especially women, making women into objects and making them vulnerable to become objects of sexual violence and rape. Rather than doing this, we can take feminine wisdom from this story, the feminine wisdom of vulnerability, flexibility, kindness, love, things that are usually seen as weak in patriarchal and hierarchical society in which we have been taught to value competition and status and objectification over these more human, heart-centered values. In society, it's great that women become equal and can take on the same jobs, responsibilities, and roles that men can, and that we have absolutely equal rights and equal access, especially to things like medication, in my case. But equally as important as that is remembering how to value feminine forms of wisdom, feminine ways of being, feminine forms of work, and feminine forms of beauty. It is extraordinarily important in these times of chaos and change that we rely on feminine wisdom of flexibility, systems thinking, relationship building, community building, and compassion for others in order to move forward and heal ourselves and the earth. Women are especially adept at healing. In fact, we saw feminine wisdom and leadership emerge most clearly during the COVID crisis. During COVID, we had mass disruptions to our ways of being and way of life. In order to cope with this, we saw flexible solutions arise, some of which ended up being great ideas, like working from home, flexible schedules, and even grocery shopping from home. We also saw that in the need to take a break, to rest, and to surrender to what was happening, that the earth actually began to heal. On days when there were less cars buzzing around, we saw clearer skies and cooler temperatures, direct results of the COVID and of feminine leadership during those moments of fear and vulnerability. These were positive things that came out of the COVID crisis. And as we move forward in an uncertain world of constant climate change and health problems and mental problems and so forth, we need feminine leadership like this to help us navigate these complex times. Feminine forms of work have traditionally been overlooked, especially feminine forms of work in this area, social work, nursing especially became one of the most valuable jobs in the COVID crisis. School teaching, taking care of kids at home, nurturing basically our society and the health of our communities is something that is underpaid, undervalued, and underappreciated by patriarchal society. This must change. We also must learn to value other forms of women's work that sometimes we don't even consider work, such as crafting, crocheting, sewing, all kinds of work that women do with our hands that we have done since tribal times are not just forms of work, but also can be considered a spiritual and meditative practice. They nurture our communities even if they don't directly contribute to new things like technological advances. They do so from the sidelines, from behind the scenes, where women have been working tirelessly and without appreciation for centuries. Back to tribal times, women have been valued for our creativity and our fertility. We are naturally abundant. We have the opportunity to actually create and bring new life into the world. This is the most important part of life, being able to generate new life itself. And for that single reason, women must be remembered as holy, as being able to bring a sacred human being through a sacred process into a world that must be remembered as sacred. Women are naturally intuitive, connected to nature, the cycles of the moon, and our creativity comes from the earth itself, can heal the earth, and can reconnect us to an earth that is drastically out of balance due to the imbalance in masculine and feminine energies. Lastly, although I have talked at length about not being objectified, not being seen only for external beauty or made into a sex object, women have been using beauty, decoration, jewelry, adornments, tattooing, etc., as a form of self-expression, as a form of sacred ritual, as a signifier of status and divinity since tribal times. We must reclaim this form of beauty, beauty that comes from the inside and radiates outward, beauty that is on the outside can indicate things like health, happiness, ripeness. Flowers in nature are a sign that the fruit is ready. So beauty is not just an external thing to be discarded. It is a source of power, of empowerment, of sacred power, of holiness, and of the deep power of the divine feminine, not just on the outside, not just being valued for what the patriarchy thinks about you, but for what you feel about yourself, what you signify with beauty that has meaning, that makes you feel good and empowers you to live your best life. All of these things we must remember as being good, sacred, and natural to how women are and how we move through the world. Upending the patriarchy is not just about challenging the status quo or asking that women be made equal within that system. It is an entirely new way of being, a new way of interacting, a new way and also an old way of how we view women and how women view ourselves from the inside. I hope this resonated with you. Thank you.